Some of you should not be allowed near Forsaken balancing discussion. Recently, I asked you guys in a community post and my Discord server for your hot takes on Forsaken, and you did not hold back. So today, I'll be going through the most interesting ones and giving my thoughts on whether they're actually reasonable or just downright insane. Let's get into the video. Collab skins are good when they don't force me to play 60 hours of a game I don't enjoy. Honestly, yeah, I might cover this issue with Forsaken in another video, but it feels like collabs have slowly degraded in enjoyment over the past several months. There's not really any standards for the limit of difficulty behind collab skins, and it's led to stuff like Martyr 1x, where you either manually grind the game for hours upon hours, or you leave your computer on overnight to AFK farm currency, and then steamroll everything when you wake up. Where's the fun in that? Is this the first impression you want to set for your game in a collab? The best and most well-received collabs in Forsaken are ones where it simply requires you to get more or less an initial taste of the game to obtain its corresponding skin. This elevates both games by a good amount. The collabed game, as it doesn't put the player into a mind-numbing grind where they have to play the whole game, and if the requirements to get the skin were well presented, might lead to more active players on said collabed game. And obviously, Forsaken gets elevated because people in the collabed games community will want to use that collab skin in Forsaken. Pizza Game, while it was still around as a proper collab, did this well. Beat the first boss to get the skin. This introduced you to the game and didn't take up too much of the player's time, but just enough to leave the player potentially interested in playing a few more rounds afterwards. The argument of, it's a skin, you don't have to get it, is so tone deaf it makes Basil's repressed anger message look like competent PR. Okay, it's a skin. That doesn't mean the developer should get a blank check on the difficulty for obtaining it. If you want to make a more late-game skin reward for a collab, then you can do that, but AFKing overnight to grind currency shouldn't be what people have to resort to for completing it. Forsaken collabs should be fun and leave you interested in the game afterwards. That's currently not the case for quite a few of them, and something should change for future collabs. Simple as that. Hot take, but Chance's strength is often overlooked. He needs an urgent nerf. Now, I don't think it's an urgent balancing issue. I would have made a video on it by now if that was the case, although I might in the future. But I also wouldn't really mind a nerf to Chance. Previously, Chance rerolling to 130 max health was extremely inconsistent, but with reroll guaranteed giving you better results with more charges, it's turned into a slightly consistent outcome. And let me tell you, constantly needing to go after a 130 max health survivor with a ranged stun is not enjoyable. Chance's maximum roll on reroll going down to 120 would be cool. It wouldn't gut Chance because once again, you get a ranged stun, but it would make killing a fully set up Chance a little more manageable. Or maybe a different nerf. Who knows? If you have an idea, let me know in the comments. Generators should be completely removed. By far, the most popular hot take I saw when making this video. I had to go over it one way or another. I don't think generators should be completely removed, but their rewards should be nerfed in some way. The XP, money, and malice you can gain from completing generators basically requires gen rushing if you want to get anywhere when it comes to game progression. And the timer decrease you can gain from completing generators forces the killer to make next to no mistakes against an experienced survivor team. Anything to make it so completing generators is an option and not required. Just make sure to increase other forms of XP, such as ability XP in return if you're reducing the XP amounts, so milestone 4 grinds don't become even more insufferable. And if you like what you're seeing in my content, consider subscribing. A lot of you currently aren't, and I think that should change. Hot take. If a survivor requires skill, they should cost more than chance, such as N7, Guest 1337, Dusakar. I've said it before, I'll say it again, Guest 1337 is a huge noob trap. When you show a new player an affordable survivor with above average health, they're going to ignore everything you actually need to do for the Sentinel, such as tanking hits for your team, and instead use that max health selfishly. Increasing his purchase cost to disincentivize using him early on in a player's experience could potentially alleviate this issue, but I'm not sure the Forsaken community would be fond of a survivor getting their price increased. Meanwhile, N7 and Dusakar don't really have as much of a noob trap issue compared to guests, so I don't think these survivors need a price increase. I have two. 1. A universal buff to killer walk speed, not run, would help killers counter looping since they would lose less ground when regaining stamina, which is normally how loops reset. 2. Targeting is a non-issue and part of the game. The only bad form of targeting is targeting for reasons outside of trying to win most effectively. Universally buffing killer walk speed would definitely cut down on looping and therefore require some more teamwork on the survivor team here and there, which is something that's direly needed in Forsaken. Although I do think for a universal walk speed buff, it's going to have to be more precise from killer to killer, instead of just a flat increase in walk speed, and maybe an appearance from the public testing build if you want to be absolutely sure this is going to be good. As for targeting, I went over that in the teamwork video already. Targeting as a killer is only justified if you're able to get the kill. Wasting 2 minutes trying to go after a Shedletsky when a half health Elliot is right there will only contribute to your loss. And some killers like Slasher are at their best when you opt to tunnel down the weakest link of the survivor team. Going against that can contribute to a loss. Now, if you're instead targeting someone for something like not supporting you during a survivor round, that's where I draw the line. It's not helping you win games, and if anything, it'll only help you lose games when that targeted survivor decides to go after you and they're on killer. If it's not optimal, don't tunnel. Simple as that. 1x's mass infection melee hitbox should be blockable. Okay, so
Chronos, the primordial personification of time itself. Please direct your attention to me, Nightmare Flying. You have officially crossed the line. While this piece of content is about hot takes, you have instead used this opportunity for discussion to try and justify one of the stupidest survivor-killer interactions in Forsaken's history. This poor content creator really thinks you're making this hot take a good face, but in reality, you just want a free way to stun Wedex because you can't block M1s. Do you honestly think that bringing back guest 1337's ability to outright deny a killer ability from being used is best for the game? Do yourself a favor and never show your face, ever again.
Oh, this is quite the hot take, but we already went over it on the channel, so I'm skipping it. But if you want to argue about stuff like this, my Discord server is where it happens. Discord link's in the description. Go give it a try. Is it wild to say that Asyms can't be perfectly balanced? No, it isn't. Balancing is never going to be perfect in a game's development, but that shouldn't stop Asym Games from striving to be at least somewhat fair on both sides of the equation for gameplay. Forsaken is extremely survivor-sided, yet they've been making attempts to curb the problem with the 1x rework and 2-time nerfs. Maybe one day Forsaken will be somewhat fair for both sides, but we're still a long way from that. And yes, Die of Death fans, that means your game is not perfectly balanced. Shedletsky is the most reliable stunner. Not only does he stun for a decent amount of time, he also has chicken and no real gimmicks. Another video concept that I've mulled over, which has coincidentally made an appearance on this hot takes video. While you could argue that Chance is the most reliable because he has a ranged stun, a good deal of consistency in his inconsistency, and being able to have up to 130 max health, he sure doesn't have a built-in self-heal for when things go wrong. And things can go wrong outside of your control with Chance when going for a stun. Having that self-heal means you can recover from missing your stun. And let's not forget said stun has no strings attached besides it going off cooldown, unlike every other stun option in Forsaken. Because of that, one could make the argument that Shedletsky is also the only reliable stunner in Forsaken, but that's neither here nor there, so go discuss that in the comments if you want. Noli should not be able to abuse physics to gain tons of height and go over the entire map. Okay, wait, are we serious? Not only has this tech been recognized by the devs, but they also allowed it to stay in the game. And it's not like this is a tech you need to know and utilize in a match to play Noli. Quite far from it. Using Void Rush as intended is still going to be the more consistent option, especially after its recent buffs. And this isn't a tech you can pull off out of nowhere. You need both a slope and a survivor to land the first hit of Void Rush on to get the ball rolling. Or, I guess to get the Void Rushing in this case. Also, this is an actual tech, unlike when people abuse bugs and try to hide it under being a quote-unquote tech. This is pretty much as fair as you can get for a tech. It's perfectly fine for the game, and I can't wait to see what shenanigans people will pull off with it in the future. The killer should be able to eat Elliot's pizza if it connects to them, so that Elliots are incentivized to actually be good at throwing them. Is this absolutely needed? No. Would it be fair? Probably. Right now with Elliot, you can kind of just get away with throwing your pizza anywhere in the direction of where your target is moving, and that's that. You know, so long as their anti-pizza detection doesn't kick in. With this, you'd have to be a little more precise with your throws, because if you miss your mark, then the killer could very easily scoop your 45 health heal up for themselves instead, leaving whoever you wanted to support out to dry. Once again, not needed, but I definitely enjoy the interaction. I don't know if it's a hot take or not, but make Cool Kid free with Slasher. Let new players pick their poison. Completely valid take. Players have a choice for what playstyle they want to use as a survivor when starting the game. Survivalist, support, Sentinel. Why this isn't the case for killers too is baffling. Only having Slasher available when starting out feels a little bare bones. Having access to a dash swap killer as well would at the very least give players some choice over who they want to main as killer initially. Builderman is extremely OP if players use his buildings right and stop giving the sentries big hugs. Yeah, if. Consistency is everything in a game like Forsaken. It can win you matches when it's there, and lose you matches when it's not. And lots of players will simply not pay attention to your buildings, no matter how hard you try, or no matter where you place them. Of course, that's not saying Builderman is bad, but he's definitely not the best support in the game, or quote-unquote OP, as this take said. A full lobby of supports is harder than a full lobby of Sentinels. Look, all I'm saying is that 99% of the time, you're going to lose against the full lobby of decently experienced TAFs when on killer. While some of these takes are completely reasonable, others should be glad this is a video and not a live stream where I can yell at them for hours on end. Forsaken's balancing and design problems aren't unsolvable, but they're also not as simple as just remove this or just buff that. Otherwise, we'd be done with stuff like the Elliot problem for months now. Forsaken lives and dies on how carefully certain changes are handled, and it's clear that the community has a lot of ideas, you know, some better than others, on how to solve its issues. So tell me which hot takes you're backing, which ones you think are awful, and if I missed one you really wanted me to cover, leave it down below. See ya.